Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how I make beef heart and liver in the oven in this Dutch oven. Now it cooks over a few hours, which just makes the meat super tender and delicious, and the way that I prepare it beforehand, I think it really adds a lot of flavor to the meat and makes it easy to eat. Now if you haven't had any kind of organs before, it is a bit of an acquired taste. I was not a big fan of liver and didn't even know that you could eat the heart and the kidneys, or maybe I did hear people would eat it, but I thought that was very strange. Until I read about all the health benefits that are in these organs, and we kind of push them aside, but I think they're quite important to include in our diet. You know, if we're going to eat one part of an animal, why wouldn't we eat everything else that we can eat? Now, if you're at your grocery store, you can look in the meat section. You may find some there depending on what kind of grocery store you normally go to. But you could also check out your local butcher shop, which I usually stay away from because I think that the prices will be very inflated, but you may be surprised and the quality of meat may just be a little greater. Not always, but worthwhile checking out, and they would definitely have some organs on hand. And I bought these from our local, they're kind of like a butcher shop, but they're also a grocery store, so they kind of do both, and we buy big boxes of meat from them, and then they also sell some of the organs in their freezer. So I bought some beef heart and beef liver from them, and I'm going to show you how I make it in this Dutch oven today. Really simple and so delicious. It is a bit of an acquired taste, and so that's sort of the reason that I am trying to cook with these things more often, is I'm trying to get used to this taste and learn to love it. I think we can learn to love a lot of things. The first time that I ate kale, I did not love it. Neither did I love spinach the first time I ate it, but the more you eat these things, the more you learn that there is this array of tastes that are so good. We've kind of forgotten about the deliciousness of sour and just a base kind of earthy taste. Anyway, I'm teaching myself to love it because it is worthwhile. I do want to feed our bodies and my family something that is actually going to nourish it and, you know, give it some great benefit. So let's cook together. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is dice this up into little chunks. This is the heart, and the liver I buy in little packs like this. And so I'm going to cube the heart, which isn't cubed, the liver is already in cubes. And then I'm going to add it to a Ziploc bag with some seasoning and let it sit for a few hours just to sort of get the flavors going. So start there. Now you're going to have to think ahead a bit because you have to do this a couple of hours in advance. So if you know you're going to make kidney or heart or whatever other thing and you want to use this recipe, you're going to have to think a bit in advance, and you could probably do it in the morning before you leave for work and come back later and just throw it into the pot around dinner time. Now, I don't really know how to cut this properly. I'm not an expert, so I'm just sort of kind of see where it naturally looks like it wants to have a cut. And then I will dice it from there. There's really no right or wrong. If you're wondering why I'm doing liver and heart at the same time, liver is very healthy for you as well, and I just found that their consistency is roughly the same after it's cooked, whereas kidneys is wildly different from heart and liver. Personal experience. That may not be for everybody the same, but I've found they're about the same. I guess, you know, they're still individual and they have their own characteristics, but yeah, they're a bit the same for me. I've made it before together and it tasted very good. So As you can see, the liver is already mostly sliced, so I'm just adding it in. Now I never know how much meat I have, so I'm gonna test it and take a measurement of roughly how much I have. About 3.5 pounds. So the main spice that really makes this yummy is the cumin. So I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons per pound, so that's 6. And the rest I'm just gonna do roughly 1 tablespoon per pound, except the nutmeg. Just a little bit less of that because it would be quite overpowering. Still figuring out measurements and what I like. But you can see that I'm putting a lot for the amount of meat that I'm making, so that's the one thing that I've learned with increasing quantities, is that you do want to spice well. So as you can see, I'm putting a lot of spice because this is a lot of meat and we're trying to make it taste good. And then again, once I'm cooking this, I'm gonna have another opportunity to taste it and try it, so I can add more if necessary. Now to make this go in well here, I'm gonna add some lemon juice and oil. And now all I'm gonna do is close it and mix it well together. That's a lot of spice. I'm just gonna put this in the fridge for about an hour or 2. Alright, look at that. Now it's a couple of hours later, and the first step with the meat is to sear it lightly on both sides. Now I've got a lot of meat here, so I'm going to do it in sections, probably about 4 parts, and then I'm just going to take whatever is done and putting it in a separate bowl so that I can do the next round of meat. While that's going, I'm preparing a little bit of stock on the side. If you've got any kind of beef stock, chicken stock already ready in your fridge, that's wonderful. I don't right now, so I'm making it from powder. But 2 cups is good enough for this Dutch oven and amount of meat. I'm gonna add a little bit of extra moisture to the dish when it's cooking in the oven. This is where you get to be creative. You can use any kind of vegetables that you have on hand. I always say that. There's obviously nice things that pair with certain dishes, but most of the time I'm just using what I have in the house already. And right now I've got sweet potatoes, broccoli, carrots, some lemons that are starting to go, and I always add olives and figs. For me, the olives and the figs is what makes this dish just delicious. So if you've got any on hand, add that in. If you don't have figs, you can use prunes. For me, this is the ultimate to be adding to this organ stew. Once I've seared all the meat and I have my vegetables chopped, I just combined everything into the pot. Ooh, and before I forget, I almost forgot, add a bit of garlic. Garlic, of course, added to anything makes it much better, so don't forget the garlic. If I had time, I'd probably chop it a little finer and put it at the bottom of the pot, but this will do. It'll cook in. It's going into the oven for enough time that it can cook into the dish. Right at the end, I put it into the oven for about 1 hour at 350 degrees Celsius. And now I can serve this with rice or mashed potatoes, any kind of starch that I'll have for the evening. And I can also use it for lunches, maybe on wraps or sandwiches. So quite a lot of meals right here in this pot, which is really nice to have some stuff made in advance. I hope that this has been helpful to you. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to cook with some animal organs, but if you haven't, it's not that scary and it's actually very delicious, so it's worthwhile trying. And if you have eaten it before, just didn't know how to make it, I hope that this has now shown you just a simple recipe that you can make easily in the oven. And if you like content like this, why don't you stick around, subscribe, and check back. I usually make an array of content about cooking, baking, camping, gardening, all those sorts of things. So if that interests you, stick around and then you can catch some of our next videos. Alright, see ya.